JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Friday, November 21st, 328 on this fine afternoon talk. Really quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at go from there. S&P SPY's right at 660 right now, so fading was just at 663. Hopefully, don't get an end of the day fade. What was it? 3.1 trillion in notional value of options expiring today. Um, I mean, it's not the first time this has happened, and some of it, of course, is because prices are so high. It doesn't matter. You could have far out of the money strikes that are not expensive, but because it's a high price stock, the notional value of that option is expensive, right? So that number is not a an accurate number, but it's always good to hype option expiration. But who knows? It might have some swings here at the end of the day. Uh, I'm trying to be cautiously optimistic heading into next week. The market opened this morning. My plan for today was for a gap and fade, right? So gap, a fade at the open and reversal. We got a little bit of the fade at the open. Market's kind of petered around, I guess is the best word for it. The Nasdaq was somewhat the weaker of the indexes, and then we found a little bit at the bottom at about 11:30 or so, and the S&P has been off to the races since. I wouldn't say a little bottom. It was kind of slightly in the green for most of the morning, and then just rally a little. But it doesn't feel like a huge update to me for some reason. I don't know why. Although my watch list, I'd say three-quarters are in the green, and a lot of these names are up big. Um, but maybe some of the sectors outside of the tech. And I'm trying to see some of the names are up. I mean, biotech's still on the tear. HPQ's up a lot today. Some of the smaller cap names. The small caps are up nearly 3%. The IWM's, I think, 2.78%. But anyway, just quick in a nutshell, and we're dipping a little bit here. Let's see. I'm looking for lottos here end of day, and I think some of the saving grace here today is I wasn't overly aggressive trying to get some positions. It didn't feel like the last two Fridays. Last two Fridays we had some reversals, and then those gains stuck. Today I'm waiting for a reversal and follow through on some of these names, and they've reversed, but there's no follow through, and they almost, I wouldn't say weak, but sorry, I'm going on little tangents here. I'm not really split. But anyway, this morning the plan first of Oracle, right? So Oracle opened, I think it was 205, 206, and the option market didn't open. So I couldn't close the rest of my puts. And that was the plan at the open. I guess the good thing is because it kept dropping while the option market wasn't open. So finally, once the option market opened, I closed the last of those puts out for $11. Crazy stuff, right? You do the math, I don't know, it's like 3,800%. Obviously, I locked some in on the way down, so it's not a full-on gain like that, but just you do the math in your head, and if you just do one of those trades every couple of weeks or whatever, boom, it makes up for losing trades and then some. So the bad thing is you don't want to do every trade thinking that that's going to happen, and that's why some of the reason I take risk off on as trades move with you, because it's harder to hold a position when it's up so much. I mean, anybody who holds that position from start to finish, yeah, I mean, takes a lot of insanity. I may dare I say stupidity. I don't know, but anyway, so that was Oracle, and then ASML, same situation. I was actually holding a little bit longer there. I didn't have many left, so once I was able to, once it looked like maybe it was going to bounce and the market was going to bounce, I closed those out. Sure enough, that went and dipped all the way down to 946. So my 990 strikes were upwards of 40 something dollars at some point. But yeah, I didn't have too many of those. So great start to the day. And then thankfully, I was saying, I was looking possibly get some strikes for bounces, and some of the names I told, typically like I would get a Reddit, and Reddit was up 2% or so, but I wasn't really doing any follow through. And then I was looking at some, the SanDisk, which I've been trading like a fiddle, I guess you would say. I've been pretty good patting myself on the back, but today just, I don't know. So then about 11:30, once I thought, okay, seems like the time where things start to bounce, and SanDisk was kind of like 190, 196 holding green. I thought, okay, it's ready to go. I get those 210 strikes, and then it just didn't do anything, right? So pretty much from 11:30 to 1:30, it sat there at 194. Then you have a report out that POTUS, so the new administration, is looking to do another deal with NVIDIA chips in China, H2O chips. Who knows? So some of the semi names spiked and then gave back some of the gains again. So tough kind of day here today. I hate some Fridays. The worst thing you do is like over trade, have a great start to the week, and then use that confidence to get smoked at the end of the day, right? I mean, it's great to have a lotto at the end of the day too. Don't get me wrong. Before I was looking at AMD, I'm like, wow, AMD puts looking expensive on a risk reward basis, but it's been sitting around here. And then I flip it around, I'm like, the 210 calls look interesting on a bounce. So until things kind of settle out, both sides of the trade look interesting, and I just continue to try and find support resistance and things like that. And then towards what time did I get those? And then I got some Oracle lottos at the noon hour, and they were inexpensive, 23 cents for the 210s. The thing is, I mean, you take a look. Who was the crazy person getting the? Oracle was 227 and change on Thursday. I'm trying to think what it was. Maybe it was a little higher when I got my 212.50 puts, and to think that if you had told me, hey, it's gonna be down to 193.55 in 24 hours, that crazy, right? Uh, but then at the same token, that means that just possibility if there's continuation today of those squeeze. So anyway, all right, that's kind of today. I don't want to get too much. Just I did get some Reddit strikes into next week. That's kind of been the plan. I've been saying it for the last couple of weeks. I think at some point there's going to be some news with one of these uh, companies that are going to look for a licensing agreement or an update agreement. They already have a deal with Google, OpenAI. There's got to be something with Reddit. You got to think that's coming. And when it does, I think Reddit's going to. I mean, I think it should be trading substantially higher anyway. But you have to think that one takes off. Uh, Let's see here. Then, other names I was looking at today, and RH, right? And I had RH. I don't know if I put it on the watch list the last couple of days. That one, 52-week lows. I was looking yesterday possibly for lottos, and then sure enough, it just at 11 o'clock, someone hits a button. It was 144, and it goes all the way up to 154. I was possibly looking for strikes into next week. So some of the thing is, and I forget what Fed, one of the Fed governors spoke this morning and kind of hyped up the possibility of a rate cut in December's meeting, or downplayed the possibility that there won't be a cut, and that kind of some of the futures rose in the pre-market. So I don't know if some of this, and yields are down a little bit today. I don't know if some of the names are overreacting to the possibility of a rate cut in December, and RH seems to be more sensitive. Then the other name that I'm looking at this week in Pool, which obviously I've been looking at over the last couple of weeks, well, last couple of months, Buffett 13F, which they filed, I think it's a year and a half now that they've had a small stake in. That name is off like 40 or 50% since they started adding a position. Here it is down at, it was 220 and change yesterday. And I was looking possibly for some later dated strikes. And sure enough, it's up 4% here today. I don't know if I'll add anything. The thought yesterday too, when I was talking about Duran, is like if the market finds footing, great opportunity to get some of these I wouldn't say oversold, but names that have come down. And Serve Robotics, one of my favorite names. That was at 970, 980 yesterday. It's at 870 right now. Only it's barely even green today. You would think this would have a little more, I don't know, more buyers coming in today. It's not. So it just kind of give me a little pause. Next week, don't forget holidays trading week. So we have half a day on Wednesday. Is it half a day? No, half a day on Friday. Markets closed Thursday. Half days. Next Friday is one of my favorite trading sessions in the entire year. Other things to watch. Biogen. So I was talking, I don't know if it was yesterday, the day before, trying to get some, I wouldn't say inexpensive, but maybe some 200 calls on a name like Biogen, right? I mean, if this biotech theme rolls into 2026, you have to think Biogen. I could see trading into the 200s, and it's just if the market agrees, right? And I was looking earlier, the December 200 strikes are 170 by 220, and so what is the implied move right now? It's $18, so about an 11% implied move on Biogen into the December strike. So if it gets to 190 in the next 2 weeks, then those 200s might be a double. Is it worth holding on to those? I'll probably somehow I'll kind of revisit over the weekend or think about some of these biotech names I might look to play into 2026 because some of the moves this year at the start of the year was worried about the new HHS, right? You have Kennedy in there, so there were concerns, and now I think that maybe there's an overreaction to one end or overreaction on the concern side that there are huge impacts on biotech, and maybe it'll flip to the other side, right? So just some thoughts there. I'm just going on a ramble here. Sorry about that. Also look at it today. LLY, first $1 trillion biotech company, monster. Earlier this week too, I was looking at GPCR calls. Thankfully I didn't pull the trigger on that one. That one's down there at 34.90. My turn pharmaceuticals, the November 20 strikes, option expiration today. Those I think they were 80 cents at one point when I was looking. Those are up near $6, but I've been a monster couple of weeks. I mean, I don't know how long it's been since I've had so many 800, 500%, 1,000, 2,000% gainers in a short period of time. And it's tough, right? Because if you have that mentality that every trade is going to be that, you're going to blow your account next week or the week after because you'll just be aggressive thinking the next one's going to be that. You got to have a plan. You got to, I always, back in the day, I would tell the strategies of like when you have big weeks, you got to have a plan to wire stuff out because if you don't, and you're trading options and you make mistakes, or you don't have a plan, or you do have a plan and you don't follow it, you just wind up blowing your account. Just it happens over and over again. So this is one of those weeks where you take some out, right? It's not a week to get overly aggressive. I forget, there was like always there was a study and someone like rolled the dice, and I forget. I'm trying to figure out in my head what I'm trying to get at. But the thing is, sometimes I've caught fire over the years, and it's like I can have 3 months of blah blah trades, not too good, and then I'll go on a tear for like a week and a half, and it's like every single thing I touch goes up 500, 1,000%. That's happened quite a few times over the years. I mean, this has been a great couple of weeks. I've had some weeks that have been even crazier, and it's fun. And so, like, sometimes you don't want to lose the mojo, um, but at the same token, having that thought process entering trades, eventually the mojo goes away, and you're sitting holding dead bags. So, don't want that to happen either. All right, rants for other days. Other things I'm watching, like Adobe this morning, relative strength with the market, right? Here it is up 4%, but again, a name that's down 52-week lows and even more than that coming into today. It's just tough, tough name. At some point, maybe that's back under $300 and below, but I think that's it. Let's have a great weekend, folks. I'll be back, rock and roll.